His Majesty, light. It can turn your work into an expensive cinematic shot or into a photo taken somewhere in a basement. So in this video, we're going to figure out how to get the first result. We'll start with the basics, how to control lights faster, work with shadows properly, and build solid basic lighting setups. Then we'll move into more advanced techniques, light textures, custom lights, false color, bloom, and other tricks used by lighting artists. And if by the end of this video, your renders still look boring, well, at least you can't blame the lighting anymore. Let's go. Let's quickly go through the basics for beginners. If you don't know where to start with lighting, try the classic 3-point lighting setup. It's a simple system built around 3 lights. I usually set the world strength to 0, so I have full control over the lighting. First, I add my favorite one, the rim light. It comes from behind the object and creates a beautiful outline around the edges. This helps separate the object from the background. Next comes the key light, the main light that creates the overall look of your scene. And finally, the fill light, a softer light that reduces harsh shadows and brightens the darker areas. Okay, I'd probably count the background light as one of the basics too. It gives you separate control over the background and can make the whole image feel more complete. 3-point lighting may not always give you the perfect image, but it will definitely help you avoid flat and boring lighting. Think of it more as a reliable starting point. When you change the size of a light source, its brightness changes too. To prevent this, open the light settings and disable Normalize. Now when you resize an area light, the brightness will stay the same, so you won't have to adjust the power every single time. If this video is useful for you, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Whenever you have multiple lights around your object, controlling them individually can quickly become annoying. A much better way is to control your lights with an empty. First, add an empty to your scene. Then select your light source, go to Constraints, and add a Track 2 constraint. Choose the empty as the target. Repeat this for the other lights. Now, when you move or rotate the light, it will always keep pointing at the object. This makes adjusting your lighting setup much faster and more precise. You can take this even further by parenting your lights to the empty. And repeat this for the other lights as well. Now, instead of moving every light separately, you can simply move or rotate the empty, and all your lights will follow while keeping their direction. This small workflow change can save you a lot of time, especially when working with complex lighting setups. In those rare cases when you don't need an empty, for example, when a light is aimed at the background, there's a faster way to point it exactly where you want. Just select your light and press Shift+T. Blender will let you quickly aim the light at the point you need. This is much faster and more accurate than manually changing the rotation values on each axis. There's a useful way to control a group of lights from one place. Select all the lights you need, select the main one last, and press Ctrl+L, Link Object Data. Now, all of these lights will share the same settings. Their position and direction will remain independent, but changing the power, color, or size of one light will update all the others. It's basically a group chat for lights, but this one is actually useful. Since we're talking about different lighting setups, I want to show you a tool I'm developing for Blender. What if you need variations of the same Blender scene? Different lighting, camera angles, materials, visibility, render settings. Usually, you have to switch everything back and forth by hand, or create files like this. Blender has no native concept of shot states, so I built one. Just add a couple of shots, set up each version once, and switch the entire scene state in one click. Camera, lighting, visibility, materials, output settings. Everything changes instantly. No more duplicate files, no more manual setup switching. Just clean shot states plus batch render, all inside one Blender project. You'll find the link to Hypershot in the description. And now, Back to lighting. In cycles, you can control how quickly a light loses brightness over distance. Select the light and open the shader editor. If you use a Blender version below 5, click Enable Use Nodes, then add a light falloff node. It gives you 3 falloff options. Quadratic is how light behaves in the real world. It gets weaker very quickly as it travels farther from the light source. Linear makes the light fade at a steady rate, so it stays much stronger over longer distances. And with constant, the light does not fade with distance at all. Objects close to the light and objects far away receive the same amount of light. This way, a single light source illuminates a location of any size. And for large scenes, this technique can be very useful. Cool? Let's move on. In Blender, you can use images and textures to create unique lighting effects. Black and white textures are perfect for creating gobos, fake shadows from leaves, blinds, windows, or other objects. Creating them is very simple. Add an area light and place it above your object. Then go to the light settings, change its shape to disk, set the spread to 0 for now, and increase the power so the light is bright enough. Now go to the shader editor. Then just drag your image into the shader editor. You can do this directly from your operating system or from inside Blender, and connect it to the color input of the Emission node. And that's it. We already have a gobo. If you want softer or sharper shadows, just adjust the spread value until you get the look you want. But this technique can do much more. You can use any color image to create beautiful colored lights and smooth gradients. Let's add a hue saturation node and increase the saturation a little. Now I'll reposition the light and turn off the key light for the moment. Then just adjust the spread until you get the look you want. At 0, the projection is completely sharp, but here, I want it much softer, something like this. And that's it. A really simple way to create a beautiful lighting effect. Bloom is one of the easiest ways to make bright objects feel more vivid, cinematic, and alive. So let me show you how to create it. First, render your image and open the compositing workspace. If you're using Blender below version 5, enable Use Nodes. Otherwise, just click New. Now create a simple setup like this using a bloom node. This setup will apply bloom to the entire image, and later I'll show you how to make it affect only your emission materials. Let's quickly go through the most important settings. Threshold is one of the most important ones. Lower it to include more of the brightness range in the bloom. If the threshold is too high, only the very brightest pixels will glow. Size controls how far the glow spreads around bright areas. Strength controls how intense the glow is. And here's an important trick. The slider stops at 1, but you can click the value and type a higher number manually, like 2, 3, or even 10. And the other controls let you fine-tune the strength and overall look of the effect. Just play with them until the bloom fits your image. And that's it. Your basic bloom effect is ready. You may notice that the bloom is currently affecting the entire image. But what if you want bloom only on your emission materials? Go to View Layer Properties, Passes, Light, and enable Emission. As soon as you enable it, the Render Layers node gets a separate emission output. Now render the image again, so Blender actually generates that emission pass. Then rebuild the node setup using a Mix Color node and change its blending mode to Add. Now the glow is generated only from emission materials. So bright reflections, white surfaces, and other highlights can stay completely clean. And that's it, a simple setup. But the final result looks really good. Using the same method, apply bloom to an entire individual object. Just enable emission for its material. Because the sunlight works differently from other light sources, many Blender users find it confusing. So let's finally understand how it works. Its position in the scene does not affect the lighting at all. You can move it closer, farther away, or even hide it underground. the result will stay exactly the same. To change the direction of the light and shadows, simply rotate the sunlight. The angle setting controls shadow softness. A small value creates sharp shadows, while a larger value makes them softer. Use a sunlight when you need even, directional lighting across the entire scene. Light linking and shadow linking allow you to choose which objects are affected by a specific light and which objects create shadows from that light. For example, a common situation is when you want your rim light to affect only the main object without lighting the background like it does right now. Let's set it up. Select your area light, go to the light linking panel, and add the object you want to light. Now the rim light affects only that object. You can also do the opposite. Turn off this checkbox. Now the rim light affects everything except the main object. Got it? But that's not all. Right below it, you will find shadow linking. It works in a similar way, but it controls shadows. You can choose which objects can cast shadows from this light and which objects cannot. For example, right now all objects lit by the rim light cast shadows. Add the sphere, and now only the sphere casts a shadow. Disable the checkbox, and now every object lit by the rim light casts a shadow except the sphere. This is a very powerful tool because sometimes the best artistic result is more important than perfectly realistic lighting. The softness of your shadows depends on the size of your light source, just like in real life. In Blender, you can control this in different ways. Point light and spotlight use radius, sunlight uses angle, and area light uses spread. Spread controls how wide the light spreads from the source. Lower spread makes the light more focused and harder. Higher spread makes it wider, softer, and more diffused. The ray visibility panel is quite important. It allows you to control how light is emitted, reflected, and seen in different situations. I know many people get confused by these settings, so let's break them down. First, don't be surprised that you see the same set of options both on light sources and on 3D objects. Every object can be a source of light rays. Normal objects reflect the light that hits them, and with an emission material, they can also emit their own light. That's why the same rules apply to both. Camera makes the light source or object invisible in the final render, while keeping its lighting, shadows, and reflections. This is useful when a light source is visible in the shot, but you still want it to illuminate the scene. You may notice that Blender's built-in light sources already have camera visibility turned off by default. Diffuse. This one is tricky. It controls how this light affects matte surfaces. Turn diffuse off, and matte surfaces simply won't be affected by this light. It won't illuminate them. The more matte a surface is, the darker it becomes. And if you still see some light, that's coming from the glossy part of the material, reflections and highlights. That glossy response mainly comes from settings like metallic and IOR. Glossy controls reflections. Turn it off, and the object will disappear from glossy and mirror-like reflections. Disable it when you want to remove unwanted reflections while keeping the lighting effect. Transmission controls whether light passes through and refracts inside materials like glass or water. Volume scatter controls whether this object or light affects volumetric effects like fog and smoke. And finally, shadow. This one is simple. Turn it off, and the object will stop casting shadows while remaining visible in the scene. Got it? Let's move on. Don't stop at the first lighting setup. Try creating 3 or 4 completely different versions: a bright sunny setup, a dark noir style, a cyberpunk neon look, and compare them. Very often, the second or third idea looks much better than the first one. To save time, you don't have to rebuild your lights every time. You can use Hypershot to save and instantly switch between different lighting setups. Lighting is a creative process. The more you experiment, the better your final result will be. If you want to create beautiful gradients and light strips, you can make your own gradient light. You can use them in all kinds of scenes, from interiors to any kind of creative lighting. And the best part is, they're really easy to create. Let's get started. Add an area light and place it in front of your object. Set the spread to 0 for now. This will make it easier to set everything up. I'll also increase the power and adjust the shape. Then go to the Shading tab and add 3 nodes: Geometry, Separate XYZ, and Color Ramp. Connect them together. The X or Y axis will control the direction of your gradient. Now choose the colors you want in the color ramp. And boom! Your boring area light is officially not boring anymore. You can duplicate, rotate, and scale it. The gradient will always keep the correct proportions. From here, you have a lot of room to experiment. You can increase the spread to make the gradient softer and more diffused. Or you can change the color ramp interpolation to constant, so the gradient turns into a sharp geometric light strip. The rest is up to your imagination. Experiment and see how far you can push it. A light source does not have to be a lamp. Create an object in any shape, give it an emission material, and it will start producing its own unique lighting. This lets you create glowing rings, strips, panels, and complex light shapes that are impossible to achieve with a regular area light. For example, you can place a glowing ring around an object and create a beautiful circular highlight on its surface. Unlike regular lights, an emission object will be visible in the render, but you can hide it from the camera by disabling camera in the Ray Visibility panel. If you just need to add some overall contrast to your render, you don't have to build extra nodes in the Compositor. In color management, there's a setting called Look. You can see its effect immediately in the viewport, and it will also be applied to the final render. I usually choose High Contrast and set up my lighting with it already enabled. Then I leave the Compositor for more precise, final adjustments. Sometimes it's hard to tell from the normal image how much an object has fallen into darkness, or how close it is to being overexposed. And because everyone's monitor settings and viewing conditions are different, the same image can look brighter or darker from screen to screen. To avoid this guesswork, false color was created. It gives you a consistent reference for exposure across the entire image. To enable it, go to Render Properties, open Color Management, and under View, choose False Color. Black and blue show very dark areas where details may disappear. Cyan and green represent medium brightness. Yellow and orange show bright areas. Red and white mean it is heavily overexposed and has no visible detail. With false color enabled, adjust the brightness of your lights until the exposure is well balanced across the image. This gives you a much more reliable result that should look good across different screens and viewing conditions. Don't build your lighting from scratch every single time. Save the setups that work well and reuse them in new projects. Create a separate blend file and keep your finished lighting setups there. For each setup, create a separate collection and place all the lights, empties, and other related objects inside it. Then, in any new project, just append setup you need. Basically, make Blender remember your good decisions so you don't have to. When you're adjusting the lighting in just one part of the frame, there's no reason to render the entire image every time. In the camera view, press Ctrl+B and select the area you want to test. Blender will render only that region, so you'll see your lighting changes much faster. To remove the render region, press Ctrl+Alt+B. Your GPU will appreciate it. Also guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. Good luck!